and welcome back to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. Today's request comes to us from Gamer Forever, who asked the question, what is L's Pokemon team from Death Note? I believe I've already done Ryuk. I don't think I've done Kira yet, Light. I haven't done Light yet, but I know I did Ryuk. And now we got a lot of L. L was unique, because there's a lot about his personality, his habits, that are a little hard to translate. His darker edge, his love of sweets definitely is up there. But the fact that he is the world's greatest detective, he is kind of the Batman of his universe. Though I'd say he's actually closer to a Sherlock Holmes, given his attitude. So let's just get into it. Being the smartest individual, best detective in the world, means that you would be an extremely intelligent individual. And for that, you need a very smart Pokemon. Now, there are plenty of intelligent Pokemon. It would have to be a Psychic type, in my opinion, because they're the ones normally described as highly intelligent. And with that, I decided to just kind of cut the middleman out and go with the strongest one, or the smartest one. The classic OG Alakazam. Alakazam is often considered to be the smartest Pokemon. I believe he's supposed to have an IQ of about 5,000 or something like that. Keep in mind, the smartest person's on the highest IQ in the world is, that's actually a good question. I think it's like 300. Highest, let's see here. Highest IQ. Okay, yeah, highest IQ. Let's see here. William James Sidious has the world's highest IQ. Anywhere from 250 to 300 is his IQ score, almost twice the score of Albert Einstein. Which, when you think about that, a score of 150 is considered genius, high genius. And that's like Albert Einstein, who failed at school, admittedly, but still, that's considered a genius. And this guy's got a IQ of roughly twice that. My IQ, I've actually never taken an IQ test. I don't know what my IQ is. Honestly, I'm trying to think, what is the average IQ? Average IQ. I'm going on a tangent here, but this is actually, really interesting. IQ stuff and all that has been really interesting. In general, an IQ is defined as the median and mean of 100 score. Scores above 130 are above average or very superior, while scores under 70 would be considered below average or is labeled borderline. Most people have borderline impaired. Most people have an average IQ between 85 and 115. Without tooting my own horn, I do actually feel comfortable to say I think my IQ is over 115. But to be fair, I don't think if it's above that, I don't think it's much above that. I don't know if I'd put myself into like the 135 or above bracket. At best, I might be pushing 130, and I might be generous on that. That's a good question. What do you think? If you've ever taken an IQ test, let me know. And if not, what do you think your IQ is? Moving back to the point, though, of this entire video. Because he's the world's greatest detective, I wanted an intelligent Pokemon. Alakazam is described as being the most intelligent Pokemon with a 5,000 IQ. Which, back to my point, is well over 10 times what the highest human IQ is. In fact, actually, it's almost close to 20 times. It's about, a little over 17 times. So, you see, I can do math. But, anyway, but he also has another function as Alakazam, his spoons. Now, why his spoons? Well, this actually goes to two of the other Mon on his team, because we know that L has a love of desserts and sweet foods. And because Alakazam is his partner, maybe his partner from the get, he shares in his love of things like pudding and ice cream. But that also means we're going to have some dessert-based Pokemon. For example, Alcremie. Alcremie is very much a dessert-based Pokemon. Its Gigantamax form is a giant cake. So this would be, and he has berries on there. And some of the stuff, like parts of Alcremie are legitimately edible. So apart from being a functioning Pokemon, a fairy type, he would most likely want to have this Pokemon on his team. Now, I did initially want to go with a Slurpuff because it's a giant cupcake, or a Swirlix because it's, cotton candy. But I'm like, he's not going to actually eat his Pokemon. But a Pokemon that you can kind of eat is Appleton. And by what I mean by that is, Appleton secrete a sweet substance from their pie-like bodies. And that is edible. Like, kids like to lick and, eat that stuff. So he might use that for, like, dessert making or something like that if he decides to cook it all for himself. But those were actually pretty easy ones to put on the team. After that, it got a bit trickier. And the first one that actually made it onto the team was Absol. Now, why Absol? Well, L has a bit of a dark vibe to him, and even a little bit of a dark. I believe the creators even describe him as just a little bit evil. He's unorthodox in his means, even going about doing very questionable acts to get the not response, but the desired outcome he's looking for. And I don't know, something about Absol seems to work. First off, color aesthetic wise, this fits well with his motif, absolutely, because black, white, yin yang, get all that. But beyond that, Absol, despite being a misunderstood Pokemon, it's said to be a harbinger of disaster, but really it's actually able to predict disaster, which would go more towards L's intelligence as well, is still a dark type. Absol, arguably, though, is one of the most positive, morally good dark types there is. But it's still a dark type. There is still some, I don't want to say evil, but there's still some darkness within Absol. Like, it can't predict. It can predict these disasters, but it can't really do anything to stop them. So it kind of just watches on from a distance. By the way, Absol, easily one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 3. And one of my, overall, probably one of my favorite dark types, just because it's a really unique design. It's this cat-like creature, but you can tell it's got a bit more of a, not supernatural, but different biology. A bit more of a fantastical look. That's the word I'm looking for. Fantastical look. He's got the curved scythe horn on there. Got the somewhat yin yang look on him. Absol's a cool design. I've always liked Absol. But yeah, speaking of darkness, when I read the comment from the creator that L is a little bit evil, I actually knew then that I needed to put a dark type on the team that is actually a bit more of a dick. That is a bit more evil. And with that, I decided to go with Cacturne. Now, there's two big reasons. One, Cacturne is known for being an asshole. Cacturne, I believe it, if I'm not mistaken, it drains the moisture out of its victims to eat them, if I'm not mistaken. I'm getting actually the Pokedex description right now. Let's see here. Cacturne, human, nocturnal animal. Nocturnal animal that early moves during day which allows it to hold moisture. At night, search for prey or follows travelers until they become exhausted. Basically, let's see. Here we go. It hunts for prey. Yep. Its blood transforms into the same substance as sand. It's nocturnal, hunts. Packs follow people and can no longer move. Okay, so this is not one of the ones that actually sucks the moisture out of people. But it is still kind of it's a predator. It attacks people. So, yeah. But also there is a little bit of a appearance resemblance here between him and L. Noticeably in the face, you can see they got the bit of the sunken in eyes, a little bit of the raccoon eye going on there. So I chose Cacturne just as that was really the ultimate filler. That was the last one I added to the team. So this is probably the most interchangeable one I'd say you could put on the team. Followed immediately by my last one, which, when I'm looking it up, I'm like, I see a picture of him kicking L in the face. As it turns out, L is actually very athletic despite eating mostly just sweets and sugar. This is because he claims most of the calories go to his brain, not his body. That's why he's able to keep his weight down. And apparently he was a tennis champion, a tennis pro, when he was in England. Or in Europe, anyway. So, all right. This warrants me being able to put a fighting type on the team for some variety. Unfortunately, there isn't really one that really works. First off, we have a couple sports-based ones, but Cinderace isn't a fighting type, first off, and it's a soccer player. The closest one I could find for, tennis was this guy, Passimian. Now, granted, Passimian is more of a footballer. Yeah, it has a helmet, it has a fruit ball. But in terms of an agile fighting type, humanoid to a certain degree, this would probably be the closest one you can make until they make something that's a bit closer to a tennis-based Pokemon. So, these two, Cacturne and Passimian, are, I think, probably the most interchangeable mons you could put on the team. Granted, I still think there needs to be another dark and fighting type on this team to balance out those traits of L. But everything else I think is a decent option to have on the team, and something I probably wouldn't change. You could swap out Appleton maybe for Slurpuff. There aren't a lot of other sweet-based Pokemon, like food-based Pokemon, that way you could go with, because you already have a pie. Alcremie is cream and turns into a cake. There's no cookies. There's already Slurpuff's the cupcake. Swirlix is cotton candy. Yeah, and there's some Sushimon, but that's not really the food he would eat. So yeah, there's really actually not much. And most of the time, it's fairy types that seem to be leading their way towards the sweet food Pokemon. Arguably, you could make an argument for using like Combi or Vespiquen for honey, but that's the argument is sort of on that a little bit. Until an actual honey-based mon is created, I don't think I could use that as an example. But still, that begs the last question, as I always ask at the end of these these Pokemon team videos. How balanced is this team? And you know what? It's actually not badly balanced. There's two repeats of typings with Grass and Dark, but they don't overlap really at all. What I mean by that is there's no two Grass Dark types on the team. There's a Grass Dragon and a Grass Dark. So then, looking at this team, does this team actually have any clear-cut weaknesses? And so the one typing that does stick out to me for weaknesses to this team is Bug. Psychic, weak to Bug. Dark and Grass are both weak to Bug. So half this team does actually get hit pretty hard by Bug types. But, I mean, Fighting resists Bug, Fairy's neutral, the Dragon is there to help mitigate the Grass weaknesses, the Bug there. Okay, so Bug is fine. What about Ice? Well, only 2 mon on the team are really weak to Ice, and only one of them has a quad weakness to Ice. And if your Appleton has thick fat, that would help mitigate that weakness. So I would still maybe put Ice as a slight problem, except for Passimian. None of these guys have a real advantage over Ice, despite it being a Glass Cannon type. Okay, well, what about the Alcremie? Alcremie, being a Fairy type, is weak to both Steel and Poison. And unfortunately, yeah, Poison does have a little bit of an edge over at least the Cacturne as well and the Appleton. Again, the Dragon type helps mitigate that a little bit, but it's still got a problem against Poison to be sure. Steel, though, you have the Passimian there. The Passimian is a very big help for this team, just due to, if you come up against that weakness, you can kind of throw them in there. Again, Bug is the only mon on this team that is a typing this team doesn't really have a specific answer for. But beyond that, I mean, this team, Dark type isn't really that big of an issue. The only one who's actually got a problem is Alakazam. Flying, only 2 are somewhat weak to flying here. Actually, no, that's not true. Passimian is also weak to flying, so I guess flying could be a problem. But again, Appleton being a Dragon type really helps balance that out. But besides that, you have a Fairy, you have a Psychic, you have a Pure Fairy, Pure Psychic, Pure Fighting, Pure Dark. That's 4 different typings right there. Then you have 2 more two Grass types, and 1 other Dark type. But you have a Dragon type in there as well. You had some speedy mon on this team. Alakazam is actually very fast. Passimian's not that slow either. Got definitely some bulk and heft on the team. And should know that this is one of those few teams I've ever made that it's fully evolved. There's no weaker mon on the team. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty solid team. You could maybe make a few more adjustments to it. If you were to say take out Cacturne and add a different Dark type, that might work. But I digress. What do you think about this team? Do you like this team? Do you dislike this team? Or are you somewhere in the middle? And if you were to change something on this team, what would you change? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. And I'll see you folks for the next one. Have a good one.